Today's flight is going to be a really special one. I'm going to fly from New Garden Airport in Pennsylvania all the way to New York City to fly the Hudson River corridor. For this flight, I'm going to borrow the Piper that New Garden Flight Connection Flight School currently has, November 7209 Foxtrot. I've done my check ride on this aircraft and have dozens of hours in my logbook, so I'm fairly confident I will be able to operate this aircraft as second nature. And the other wing tip. Joining me today is my younger daughter Nainika, who's along for the adventure, and my flight instructor Doug Somano, who's tagging along to oversee the flight and make sure everything goes smoothly. So let's get into it. Our flight from New Garden, Pennsylvania to the New York Hudson SFRA. We loaded up our Cherokee with about 40 gallons of fuel, and with two full-sized adults and a teenager, we were pretty much maxing out our useful max gross weight. It was a conscious decision to leave out at least 4 gallons from each of the tanks, just to keep a safety margin for the flight. On takeoff from runway 24 at New Garden, the aircraft definitely made us work for it. Managed to take off, settle back down, lifted again, settled down again, and finally climbed away on the third try. Doug turned to me and said, "Well, that's your 3 takeoffs and landings in one. Good thing we didn't top up the tanks." The flight from New Garden to the Hudson River takes roughly just over about an hour. On the way, we had to stay under the Class B shelves of Philadelphia to be between the Class D airspaces of Trenton and Northeast Philadelphia, and then finally had to duck below the Class B areas of Newark as well as JFK and LaGuardia. The first landmark was a Vesey Bridge. We crossed on the east side, spotted some traffic on the coming the opposite way. Then came the big moment, heading northbound up the Hudson River with the Statue of Liberty just off our left wing. On the right side was the Freedom Tower, or the One World Trade Center that dominated the skyline. Definitely a photo op for all the passengers. My daughter had a great time snapping pictures while I focused on just flying the aircraft. We flew past the USS Interpret and then the famous slender residential new skyscrapers that have popped up around Central Park and the Empire State Building. Once those faded behind us, the skyline dropped down to mid-rise buildings. And then we hit the next landmark, which is the George Washington Bridge. At the bridge, I checked with Doug to see if I could make a 180 there and then proceed southbound. He advised that I continue up to the Alpine Tower, which is the northernmost point in the SFRA, and then make my turn. A few minutes later, I reached the Alpine Tower, and that's where I made the 180 turn. And honestly, it felt like doing a canyon turn over water. There is a high cliff on the New Jersey side, I think the Palisades, as they call it, roughly about 300 to 400 feet tall. I noticed that I was able to comfortably manage the turn within the boundaries of the river and head southbound. We retraced our route past the skyscrapers, then the USS Enterprise. This time I was able to spot that the PSC Concorde was parked on the Enterprise, and I pointed it out to my daughter. As we neared the Freedom Tower again, I could spot the Statue of Liberty at a distance. I reduced power and slowly descended, making my radio call that we are going to circle the lady at 900 feet. There were a few other aircraft in the area. I remember a gyroplane making calls that was coming right behind us. Doing a 360-degree orbit around the statue was definitely the highlight of the flight. At about 3/4 of the circle, I leveled the aircraft briefly to check for traffic that was coming from the north proceeding to the south. Finding none, I tightened up the turn. With that, we exited the SFRA to the south and started heading back home. On the return leg, I did a quick touch and go at Robbinsville Airport so that I could log the entire flight as cross-country PIC time. And that wrapped up our Hudson River SFRA flight. I logged a total of 2.8 hours in the logbook, and it was an experience that I'll never forget.